Well, I don't see the point in waiting any longer, so let's bring her out. The star attraction, the one you came to see. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, Miss Judy Gold.
You go to Europe and then you book you're 18 and you book you can't write this shit. Like, did you auditioned?
Well, what happened was when I was about, because Milan was where I mainly worked.
Right.
So I would go to Milan, then Paris, London, and do a stint in Brazil, and always end up back in Milan.
Right.
I ended up booking this Uncle Ben's rice commercial in Italian. It was an Italian Uncle Ben's rice commercial.
Wait, do it.
I didn't have to say anything.
Oh, fuck.
No,
okay.
I wasn't like, tutto bene. No, I didn't have to say anything.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I love the Italian language. It just warms my heart. I just love it. I booked this thing where it was just me walking through the Duomo, the piazza at the Duomo. And it was me just walking through the Duomo. And that's how I sold rice, apparently.
Right.
But I loved it. I'm like, this is great. And because I never took to modeling. And let me tell you, these girls are, being a model, people think is so glamorous. It is so not. And these girls bust their asses.
Like that.
We are, when I was doing it, we just pound the pavement, and it is, and it's just like, people think it's glamorous. A lot of it isn't, you know what I mean? And even though I say I never took to it because I didn't like it, I never wanted to sound like, I'm putting down what these girls do.
Right.
And guys, there were a lot of men over there too. Because I got to say, it's a grind. Like a lot of breaking into industry and stuff, it's a grind. So it's an interesting learning experience that I went through. But I got this Uncle Ben's rice commercial, and I really liked it. So I called my mom and I said, I want to try this acting thing. And she said, and this is me, I'm calling her from Italy.
Now, people listening need to know, there's no FaceTime.
No, there's definitely no FaceTime.
Right, yeah.
It's long distance, phone call, rotary phone. And I called my mom and I said, I want to try this acting thing. And she's like, okay, what do we need to do? And I said, I need to learn how to act. And she said, okay, great. So I come home, I fly home on Alitalia back to
with
Jersey,
all your shit, with all your stuff?
Pack up all my stuff, fly home, because I'm like, great, this phase of my life is over. I'm moving on to the next.
Right.
So I come home, we take a Yellow Pages, the thick phone book, brick Yellow Pages, and we literally open it up and just point to an acting teacher in New York City. And then my mother would drive me to my acting classes in New York City. And again, she wouldn't drive me to school, but this part of my life.
And you're living in New Jersey.
And I'm back home living in New Jersey. Right. And I start taking these acting classes every week. And
who was the teacher?
Her name was Caroline Thomas. And I'm not even sure if she's still, again, this was in 1998. I'm not even sure if she's still teaching. But I would go work with her.
Were there any other successful actors in your class?
No, it was a bunch of workhorse, working New York actors, who were just learning the craft. And I started taking classes with her, and then because I had modeled, my New York agency, who originally signed me and told me I had to lose weight and all that stuff.
Fuck them.
Whenever you're a model, though, you do different hair campaigns and stuff like that. You always have an agent who can put you out for Pantene or whatever.
Right.
So that branch of my modeling agency, after I'd been learning to act for about, probably 6 months up until now, I got a random commercial for an MCI commercial, a random audition for an MCI commercial. It was called a national, which means
a
national commercial. Exactly. Yeah. It's like every actor's dream when you're when you're just a working actor, on the grind, getting a national commercial, you're like, I can pay my rent now.
Right.
So I ended up getting this audition. I booked it. It was the first audition I ever got. I went out and it was just, I was a princess kissing a frog. And I ended up booking this commercial. And then because I booked it, they were like, send her out to all this stuff. So then a few months later, this audition for this thing called The Kids Are All Right. It wasn't called That 70s Show. The Kids Are All Right audition came in. I went in and read. I ended up flying. They flew me out to LA.
Wow.
And
First
to read
class.
with Topher Grace, to read with Topher. And I was 18 at this time. I didn't know, Judy, I didn't know anything. I remember going to this callback, right? So I auditioned in New York and I was just like, did my thing. I didn't really think anything of it. Because I didn't know what was at stake, it was perfect because I didn't know.
Because you didn't put any pressure on yourself. You're like, oh, that sounds fun. I want to go back there. I want to go back there every time I go on an audition. I want to go, oh, okay. All right.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it.
Yeah.
So I went into this reading. I was wearing a tank top, no makeup, camo pants, because I was really into camo pants at the time, and a pair of flip-flops. And I walked into this casting and I had no idea. And sitting next to me was this beautiful blonde, petite, mini skirt, full makeup, hair, the whole thing. And I remember sitting there being like, oh shit, should I have like, you know what I mean? Totally opposite, you know, I didn't even know what was up. I'm like, oh, I don't know if this is happening. I don't know if I like this, if I'm supposed to look like that. And I was supposed to go in before her. Okay, so this is to read with Topher for 70 Show. The casting director came out and she said, we're going to take her in before me. And it was, now she's a well-known actress. I can't say who she is, but I later found out who she was, where I was like, oh my God, that was blah, blah, blah. But now I feel inappropriate saying who it was.
Right.
But they came out and brought her in, and then they brought me in, and I did my whole audition and everything. And then I found out a few hours later that I booked the role of Donna Pinciotti.
Yeah.
And later, there were two things that I asked the creators of the show, Bonnie and Terry Turner. I said, why did they bring her in before me when I was supposed to go in first? And they explained that they wanted to show the network, because it was Fox.
Yeah.
They wanted to show the network what they thought they wanted, and then bring in me, who was what they wanted, because I was Donna. And then, so that was an interesting casting game that I learned, where I'm like, oh wow, they stacked the deck for me, which I didn't know. And then the thing that sealed the deal was I went in and I auditioned. And after I did the audition, I put my hands on the table and I said, we done? And I pushed up. And they said, are we good? I said, we good. So the fact that I put my hands on the table and I said, we good? And pushed up, they were like, that, not only did we already know you were Donna, but that physical action was just cinched it, just sealed the deal.
That is fucking incredible.
Isn't that crazy? So it was the way that I, read, because obviously they were like, you're Donna, but that one physical motion was so Donna. I didn't know. I was just saying, are we good?
So crazy. I know. And then you think back, you're like, oh my God.
When you think back to all the auditions that you didn't get, and then the auditions that change your life, you're like, wow, and that cinched it. That's so funny.
You have to, when you do your movie about your life, you have to call it "We Good." So fucking great.
I'm gonna remember that.
Okay, and then all right, so then you're on this fucking but
Judy, I literally was like, LA is fine. They speak English there. I don't have to listen to CNN just to hear an English voice, So I was like, while I learned so much living abroad and it was scary and amazing at the same time, I was like, LA will be a cakewalk. I'm like, this is fine.
Right. You are on That 70s Show for 8 fucking years. Like, do you even, and are you still naive enough to go, okay. Or is it like, are you like, oh my God, I'm on it? Like, because if someone said to me right now, you're going to be on a show I would be like, oh my God, I'm going to have health insurance,
Yeah, I know. Tell me about it. I get it.
And so now, do you have any idea what has happened to you? Like that this is one in God knows how many.
I know.
And that the show's a success for 8 years. Like,
It's surreal. It's even now when I think back to that, it's surreal. It really is. But you know what? But I gotta tell you again, we were all so young. We were all so young. We were 18, and the only two that had ever really worked before was Mila, because she played young Angelina Jolie and Gia.
Right.
And so she played young Gia. So she had worked on a film. Danny Masterson was doing a film when we all booked it, and we were all like, "Oh, he's doing a movie. What is that like?
My God!
What do you know?" And we all learned on the job. And the way that Fox put us on the air, they put us on not when the new shows usually come out. They did something like they reran us during the summertime. Like they put us on
so people could get invested in it.
Exactly. So it was like a very slow build, and then they reran us during the summer, and that's when it really started catching on. But we didn't know what was a success and what wasn't. We had no idea. It was all of our first real jobs.
Unbelievable. And Terry Hughes, by the way, I was on All American Girl with Margaret Cho. Amazing. And he was our director, and we used to make so much fun of him. It's so, I can't. Because she talked like this.
Yeah, right? He did the pilot.
Yeah, he did the pilot, and then he
only directed one of our episodes.
Right, I know, but I heard you say that, and I was like, oh my
yeah,
gosh,
yeah. And then, Terry Turner created it, and Terry Hughes directed our pilot.
Right.
And then David Traynor, the most wonderful, amazing man. He was like our father. David directed every single episode of I think we did over 200 episodes.
That's amazing.
He directed every single episode except for the pilot. He was so wonderful. I learned, I got into directing by just like watching him.
Yeah.
How he dealt with us. I learned so much from him. He was such an amazing director, and he literally was like our father, like truly. He was amazing. Yeah,
so
it was great.
That was sort of like your high school, college experience, right? You got to grow up with these. And did you bond with the whole cast? And
yeah, what's so crazy when you think back at that, we were all so brand new. We were on this show that was a hit.
Right.
We all kept our heads on though. Like you never really heard. I remember when E! tried to do some like Hollywood story about us, and there was nothing for them to talk about.
Right.
Because, sure, we'd go out and, have drinks and, do what people do, in LA, whatever. But it wasn't like, you just we all just kind of helped each other. You know what I mean? We all just kind of came up together, and it was an amazing experience. And I learned so much on that show. I learned how to act on that show.
Of course. I'm sure you learned your whole life.
I learned so much on that show. And it was just like, but to go through, I was on the show from 18 until 26. If you think about those years, if you think about those years, those are formative years.
Those are, and you have money and a fucking job.
We have money and a job and a wonderful person like David Traynor, who is setting an example of how to do this. And it was amazing.
This is the most exciting thing when the show gets picked up and you get your own director's chair to sit in while you're not in your scene.
I know, and that's always the best. Well, because it's you always think about like, my husband and I do our little mini film school where we go back and we watch, because he's also a director, so we go back and we watch all of these older movies from the 40s and 50s, and you see these, when you start studying early cinema and then you see the actors in the director's chair and things like that, there's like this idea in your head that you're like, oh, that's like the golden age of Hollywood. Actor. So and you always kind of have some idea of that. So when I first walked onto the set and saw my name on a chair,
it's like fucking, oh my God.
You're like, this is real, I've made it. You know what I mean?
So you're Donna. I bet you're like, people are like calling you Donna at Gelson's, and like, you're on this amazing show.
Yeah. It was crazy.
And then you get Orange. Now, but it took a few years, correct?
Yeah, I mean, 70s ended in 2006.
Right.
And while I was on 70s, I realized that I wanted to become a director. Because while I loved acting, directing was something that when I first directed, I'm like, this is, I felt like a fish in water when I acted, but when I directed, it was even more.
Right.
And while I love acting and I'll always act, directing was so, I just felt so comfortable and like I finally found my calling.
It's, people don't realize a conductor of an orchestra knows every instrument,
Right.
what they're playing, if they can hear, if the,
Oh,
third,
that's such a good analogy. I never thought about it. That's amazing.
yeah, it's like you can hear if the third violin, second chair made a mistake. Like,
it's so true.
Every fucking detail of that music and, and directing. It's like you see something in your head and you have to create this. And people think, it's like, oh, okay, you go over there and you stay and say it like this. And it's so intricate and so detail oriented. I like, God bless
when you work with a director who doesn't know how to do that, boy, is that a train wreck.
It's horrible.
It's awful. It's awful. And we've all experienced working with directors where you're like, how did you get this job?
Right.
How are you doing this right now? And everything, it's like a mutiny.
Right.
Because everything falls apart when you don't have a director who can do exactly what you just explained. It's rough when you have a director who can't do that. But
you leave that and you start directing a little, and then do you get Orange?
Well, what happened was I started directing I did this while I was on 70s, I was around 22. I booked my first film. My first feature film that's shot in Coleman, Alabama.
Uh-huh.
And it was a very, very low budget indie. And I went and did this movie and I was the female lead. And we were hanging out in Coleman, Alabama in the middle of some muddy field. And I saw this group of guys standing around with a camera. And I went to the director and I said, who were those guys?
Right.
And he said, because it was a group of guys. Right. And he was like, oh, that's the second unit. That's the second unit. And my second unit director quit. And it was his first film. So he was overwhelmed. And I said, okay, great. I am off for the next 2 days. I'm not filming. So give them to me and I'll go get the shots. And he said, do you know how to direct? And I was like, of course.
Oh,
I had no idea. I had just watched David Traynor on the set of 70 Show.
I love that.
So he's like, great, tomorrow morning, come to the production office, which was a room at the Holiday Inn where we were all staying. And I got a list of 16 shots. And it was like, it was second unit. So it was like a guy on a tractor or like the lead character's car driving by, but without him in it, just like the car, a sunset, like different shots to establish tone and things like that. So we got in the van I was with these 4 guys.
Right.
And we're driving around. I'm like, okay, I need a guy on a tractor. I saw a guy on a tractor and I was like, pull over. We pulled over. And I'm like, he needs to sign something.
Right.
So I hand wrote a consent form, got this guy, he signed it. And we got the shot of him on the tractor. It was beautiful. And then we just picked off all the other shots. We needed to film a chicken farm, a water tower, all these shots.
No way.
The director saw the dailies and he said, great, you're the second unit director.
No fucking way.
And then I became the second unit director on this little indie and it was great. Mm-hmm. And my crew was like the first, because we were all transplanted from LA. And my crew was like, the first thing you direct in LA were your crew. I went back to LA. I wrote a short film. They were my crew. And I did this short film. And then I was like, I need to know more. I need to, So then I tracked down this guy who taught at a local college close to the 70 Show set. And I got him to put me through film school.
Wow.
Because he was a father of a friend of mine. And I literally wouldn't let up. I'm like, he was like, I don't have time to do this. I teach during the day. And I was like, I'll pay you. I will show up. I'll do all of it. And when he literally, I wouldn't leave him alone. And finally he agreed to put me to film school. And so he did. So I would go to 70s during the day. I'd go to film school at night. And he ended up producing my second short film. And then I ended up just cutting my teeth on stuff. I taught myself how to edit, was a one-woman crew for this web series I did. And then right after 70s ended, I ended up doing October Road. And then I did a show called Are You There, Chelsea with Chelsea Handler.
Yes.
And then another, she's from Jersey.
Another Jersey Jew, yeah.
She's got, there's 6 siblings in her family.
Yeah.
6 kids. But yes, and then after Chelsea ended, I booked Orange is the New Black.
Were you like, when you auditioned for Orange, or did they offer it to you, or?
No, I auditioned. Did I audition? Here's what happened. I auditioned for the role of Piper originally.
Wow.
A lot of us auditioned for different roles. A lot of the girls, because there were so many roles, a lot of the girls auditioned for many different things, and then depending on what they were great for, they then would come back and read for that. I auditioned for the role of Piper, which I knew I was wrong for.
Right.
But I loved the script, and I love, like, Alex. I knew I was Alex.
Right, of course.
And I auditioned for Piper, knew I was wrong for it. And Genji could not get me out of her head for the role of Alex. So then she was like, they ended up hiring Taylor, who was a beautiful, wonderful actress. I loved working with Taylor.
Yeah, she's great.
And then I went to New York to test with Taylor as Alex. And when we auditioned together, it was like kismet. It was just one of those things that we were so like meant to do these roles. And it was so magical. Like when when you do an audition or
and you're like clicky clickman. Yeah,
exactly. So it was that. And then none of us knew what Netflix was or anything, but we knew that this material was special. And then I ended up I literally came on back to LA, and I found out.
Was this the first time you were doing something where you're like, oh my God, I really want this? So it wasn't like, it wasn't like,
I mean,
did it have weight? Did it have, like?
Yeah, I mean, after look, I've had the good fortune to be able to be in this industry for over 20 years, right?
It's amazing.
It's been amazing. I mean, granted, there's all this stuff that you don't see,
right? Of
like
course.
Being told no a million times.
8,000 I know. I tell my kids that. I go, if you only knew.
Exactly.
It's like 99, no, too tall, too fat, too tall, too Jewish, too gay. It's like, it's
I get it. I mean, nobody sees that. Nobody sees that. They just see like, oh, you're on this show,
Right.
But I had gone to a point in my career where, because all of that rejection for a while was really starting to affect me.
Right.
While, yes, I went from this wonderful show like that 70s show to October Road to Are You There, Chelsea, there's all these things in between.
Yeah.
That there's rejection circled around and different things like that. And you have to have such thick skin to just persist in this industry.
And just say, you're wrong.
Exactly.
Okay.
And you have to just, not to sound cliche, but believe in yourself and keep going.
Right.
And one of the things that I loved so much about Orange, especially because this is something that I would tell myself, which is, and especially now it's so embraced and I love that, is that there is only one you. You can give 100 actors the same line and that will be read 100 different ways.
Right.
And for a long time when I was coming up in the industry, I would always try to do the lines or portray this role the way that I think that other
they want it,
or the way that they would want it. And that was not correct. So I got to a point where I was in this long enough and I had enough boots on the ground experience that I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to do it the way that I want to do it.
Right.
Nobody is going to see it the way that I see it. Just like nobody's going to see it the way that you would see it.
Right.
And et cetera, et cetera. So when I really started to embrace my individuality, which by the way, took me years to do that, years to grow into. But by the time Orange came around, I was already in that thing of, I'm just going to do this the way that I want to do it. And if they don't like it,
fuck them.
moving on.
Right.
And it's also because I love my job. I used to be terrified about auditioning. My heart would be beating through my shirt, seeing my shirt moving with my heartbeat because I was so fucking nervous.
Right.
And I got to a point where after all of these audition after audition and meeting after meeting, where I was like, you know what? I love my job. I get to go in and perform for 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever the hell it is. I get to go in and I get to do this.
Right.
And it changed my viewpoint. Instead of being like in fear, it was more like, I can't wait to get in there and show them what I did and show them what I did with this.
Yeah. Wow.
That viewpoint, along with embracing
you have such a good attitude.
Game changer. So by the time Orange came around, I was like, great, this is my viewpoint of Alex. This is how I'm going to do it. And if they don't like how I do it, then cool, on to the next. But I knew that there was something really special about it. So I had to really, make myself calm down in terms of, I know how badly I wanted it, but I had to balance it.
Put that compartmentalized.
Yes, exactly. But I knew it was special. I knew it.
Did you ever meet the person who your character is based on?
No.
Wow.
I didn't. And I had asked about it and it was very quickly quelled.
No way.
Yeah, early on I had asked about it and it was just not something that was going to happen. For whatever, and then I let it go. I was like, okay, well, did
you ever like Google or try to find out?
Oh, sure. But one thing that was really great about working with Genji and Netflix, because Netflix, I don't know how they are now, but when 7 years ago, they were not micromanaging us at all. They were like, do the show, do your vision of the character. Genji's going to do her vision of the show. And it was very free and wonderful. And now I don't know how they are now because then they were like, just keep doing it.
But you are like, you guys made them a success. You put them on the map.
I mean, we definitely all came up together to get us. It was a rise together, which was amazing. Us, House of Cards. I think they went on right before us, but our show with Netflix was a changed the game.
Were you surprised that it got so big and big? Like my fucking teenage kids were watching it. Like it's sort of like it was all like it's all women and women of women.
Right.
But the audience wasn't all women and lesbians. Like they all thought it was going to be a big lesbo show, but it ended up being. I mean, everyone, like straight fathers in the school, like.
Well, we changed the game. I mean, we were taking on subjects that nobody else was.
Right.
And thank goodness, like it was the stuff that we covered on that show. Nothing was taboo. We went there, we portrayed it, we did it, and it changed. Number one, it changed the way that people consume entertainment. Number one.
Right.
And on the rise with Netflix, and that all became we changed the game together,
Right.
And now look, we're all, that's how people are consuming their entertainment mostly.
It's incredible.
It's through streaming.
Because you couldn't wait to get to the next one. Like
right, exactly. Yeah. So, but it was, we changed the game in such an incredible way. And I'm just so proud to be part of it. And the girls, we're all still close, and it's like, it's amazing. It's just amazing. I mean, yesterday Taylor and I did a thing for my book, and it was just and we have like this text chat that we're all on, and we all stay in touch.
I love that Bondy Bondman.
Yeah, and then last weekend we did this whole thing where, Danielle Brooks was like, we should, wanted to do this whole thing that we ended up, this little video that we ended up doing and posting together to help people stay inside and stay home.
Right.
And we all got together and not, we all got together in our own homes.
Right.
And did this fun thing to help kind of, help people stay home.
Oh, I love that.
It's great. It's truly great. They're just amazing women and men.
That I can't believe I'm 6'2", over 200 pounds, and I was never on that fucking show. God
I
damn
wish
it.
you were. You would have loved it.
I wanted to be on so bad. I was like, I did Shakespeare in the Park. And they came, like so many people came, and I was like, I'm gonna get
It's so fun.
something like some Jew character, that like embezzled money for their husband.
That would have been amazing.
So,
and then also I directed a bunch of them. So that
I
was
know.
phenomenal. It was just so cool, man. Oh,
you know what's so great? I don't know. There's something so, it's like you're so positive, but you're so realistic, and you're just not like so many people in this business. Like, it's like,
thanks, Judy.
It's so refreshing. Okay.
Thank you.
Now, your book. Now, you did write a cookbook.
Yes, in 2016. That came out, yeah.
So you write this book, which is out now, which is amazing, and it's a quick read, which is, and it's perfect time to read. Here you are. You meet the love of your life. Well, you met the love of your life, but you married the love of your life.
Yes, we took the long road to each other, and finally we got back together.
And until you met him, you really didn't think about kids, and your daughter is born, Ella.
Yep.
And here comes this mind fuck of, oh my God, I'm a mother, which is the scariest thing in the world. And it's true. You relive every age. You think of yourself at that age. Right. And what was, you know what I mean?
Right.
So you once said, when you have nothing to rebel against, you become more responsible.
Yeah.
And
that is I believe that. I believe
yes,
that.
I heard you say that. And I thought, how was she going to parent? Like, because you see both sides of the equation. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You see the side of the equation of, freedom, freedom, freedom. And then you see the side of the equation where, like, kind of wanted a little bit of boundary. Totally. Yeah. So Ella is what? 3?
2.5.
2.5, 3. 2. All right, 2.5.
Almost 3. Almost 3.
Okay. 3. I mean, you have so long to go. I'm telling you, it gets so annoying. They get so mean. They're so fucking like, okay. Everything I fucking do, I'm like, you know what? Fuck you. Anyway, that's also why in my book, I interviewed this group of women of different ages, with kids of different ages, different backgrounds, different professions, specifically for that reason, because I feel like we all struggle with the same types of things, like stress and loss of control and self-care and the mom guilt and keeping your partnership strong. Right. We all suffer with these things, or struggle, or whatever. But there are these common things that we go through, but there's different viewpoints of it. So there's something that everyone can relate to. Right. When they read the book, but for that exact reason is why I want to talk to mothers of all ages. Right. And also, it's like you have to accomplish the same thing, which is, I want a good person. I want to create a great person. Exactly. And everyone goes about it a different way. And who's to say what's right and what's wrong, Right. So here you are. How are you having visions of your mother? And do you see things that Ella does? I know you have a new baby. Yeah. But do you like get these, like, how do you reconcile the way you were brought up with the way you're parenting? It's a really good question, because I never had to go back and look at that, really. Right.
because I feel like because everything we just talked about, like because I started working at such a young age and I was just kind of like boots on the ground working.
Right.
I had never really analyzed my upbringing. I
Right.
had never really looked at it too much because I was just kind of like on the move, on the grind and going. And I
Right.
never thought about kids until I got with my husband when I was 36. So, yes, for the first time, having to look back at that was mind blowing for me. But the other thing is, the reason why I originally wrote this book was You and I as Mothers, is because when I first became a mom, I'm like the one that people would come to get things done.
Right.
I was always like the rock. People would
Right.
come to me to get things handled. They relied on me to, like, if there was a problem, they're like, Laura, can you just handle that? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
and I prided myself on the fact that I was the one that people leaned on and that they
Right.
came to get it done in all areas of my life.
Right.
So when I became a mother, I was completely upended. I didn't know what was going on.
Right.
My hormones were all over the place. I was having panic attacks. I was grinding my teeth so much in the middle of the night that I chipped my tooth.
Ah.
I literally would, even the thought of taking my daughter outside I couldn't breathe. Like I would
Right.
hold my breath for minutes. Like I don't even know how I survived that. Just
Right.
not breathing. And I was just so like filled with anxiety and fear that I couldn't protect my child. And I couldn't take care of myself. I couldn't take care
Right.
of my family. I was completely messed up. And it was so not me. And I turned to my husband and I just was like, the woman you married is gone. I don't know
Right.
who I am. I don't know what's going on. Like I was a complete disaster. And there was nowhere for me to turn to. Like there was
Right.
I'm all about researching and
Right.
books and prepping. I'm all about preparation. And I
Well, there's
couldn't find anything
Right.
because there's all this stuff about pregnancy, these wonderful books about
What to
pregnancy.
expect when you're expecting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then there's a ton of books about parenting, but there
Right.
wasn't a resource for me as the woman, as the mother. Like there wasn't a resource for me to turn to. And that's when I started writing things down.
You're so resourceful.
Thank you.
It's amazing.
Thank you. I started reaching out to other mothers of different
Right.
ages and talking to them about anxiety, talking about how they handle stress, talking about what they do for themselves. Not, we're all identified like in relation to our kids, which I get it,
Right.
we're mothers and we love our children. But there wasn't something about us.
Right. As individuals.
As
Yeah.
individuals. And that is what was
love
so
that.
important to me to write about. And I started writing these down, writing all this stuff down and looking back at my childhood and how I was raised. And, that's another thing too, is a lot of people who aren't mothers love the book because even though they're not mothers and might choose not
Their
to be,
daughters.
they're exactly, and their sisters and their
Right.
friends
And their aunts, yeah.
are going to be like whatever
Right.
it is. I've had a lot of people reach out to me and say that they've gotten so much out of the book because I speak to these kind of universal subjects.
Right. And it's so great because it runs the gamut. It's not like this is how you do it. This is the right way. If you want this result, do this. We're talking about fucking people. They're
Right,
people.
Exactly.
Have you ever asked your sisters or your mother for advice, parenting advice?
Well, my mother has Alzheimer's.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
So
I knew that, but I didn't know if she.
No. It's fine. It's fine.
Okay.
So she doesn't remember.
Right.
Because she's kind of further along down the road. Unfortunately, that's such a terrible.
It's a horrible disease.
Absolutely terrible. So she doesn't remember. I will tell her stories about stuff and try to, spark some memories there,
Right.
but she doesn't really remember. And my sisters have their own way of mothering.
Right.
And but yes, we talk about it all the time since they're all my sisters are mothers now. And, but it really was important to me to have some different viewpoints on the same subject.
Same thing, yeah.
That that any reader can relate to. That was really important to me. And I got to tell you, through the process of writing this book, I have gone through so much writing it, so much healing, so much research and eye-opening information. And I'm biased. Obviously, it's my book. I get it.
Right,
but
right.
I really, truly love this book. And it's helping a lot of people. And
It's amazing.
thank you. I'm just so excited about it, especially with what we're dealing with now.
Oh,
With the isolation and the need for community and the need to feel seen and heard.
Right.
I'm very happy about. I'm just so proud of the book. And
What
I
do
love
you
that people are loving
do you
it.
think about what you're going to tell Ella about your childhood and when you're going to tell her?
There's some things I don't think she needs to know.
Right. Because
but
you know she's going to throw it back in your face.
Of
Like when
course,
she does
of
something, be
course.
like, "Well, you went to Milan when you were 15, so why
Exactly.
can't I?" You know,
Exactly. And she'll find all that stuff out
Oh,
just
yeah.
by, listening to this
Yeah.
or watching whatever, But yeah, she's gonna definitely put me to the test. I already know
Right.
that. She's highly independent. She's very
Uh.
smart. And it's coming.
All right.
It's coming.
So I always ask, first of all, I fucking love, you're so amazing. And
So
like,
are you.
no, you are. And you're such a whole person and such an individual. It's so fucking great. Like when I was doing research and this idea, where you can't give up. Like you said that when you were younger and and it's so true. I have a thing on my door that says never, ever, ever give up. And
Right.
And you're just the plowing forward and the blinders, but you still could see everything. I just fucking brilliant. Anyway.
Thanks, Judy.
Okay. So I always ask my 2 questions to my guests. Number 1, because we're very pro mental health, what do you do for mental health? Like antidepressants, meditation, like, because we want to break the stigma. I'm on so many meds and I have been, and I went through a clinical depression. And it's like, it's like having diabetes,
Right.
But
right.
you talk a little bit about the postpartum anxiety and stuff. And,
Yeah, that was so rough. It was so rough. My husband and I meditate together. And he and he actually grew up in a transcendental meditation community in Iowa.
No fucking way.
Yeah, so his parents were like on the forefront of that whole thing. And
Right.
you hear about it because of Oprah and Jerry Seinfeld and David Lynch and all these people. There's so many people that specifically do TM, but regardless of that, I just find time to, what really helps me and just make my mind kind of chill out is I just kind of meditate. I just kind of zen out. And that's something that's really helped.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband and I started doing TM together when I really, really was suffering.
I want to do that. I want to learn it so bad. I've called Bob Roth. I talk to him all the time.
I mean,
and he's like, "Oh, okay, yeah." And it's like, "Come on, Bob. I know I'm not
Bob.
Bob. Everyone's got a mantra except for me.
I keep my mantra.
I need just give me the fucking mantra, and I'll figure the rest out."
I get it.
Yeah.
So that honestly has helped a lot when I was going through, this anxiety has helped a lot. And I also realized that I've always done a form of that, of just like breathe, like just trying to, because there's so many times when I get stressed out that I would catch myself holding my breath.
Right.
So learning some breath work, which is, and ever since I was a kid, I never learned how to correctly support my voice.
Right.
I never learned how to correctly breathe.
And use your diaphragm and stuff.
Exactly. And I remember as a kid being on 70 Show, my director, David, would say, "Laura, you have got to learn how to support your voice," because I would do a scene where if my character had to like raise her voice and I had to do speak over and over again, I couldn't speak for 4 days.
Wow.
I would lose my voice. So even as a kid, he was like, "You have to learn how to breathe."
Right.
And I realized as I got older, and especially after becoming a mother, when I had this crazy stress of like terrified about protecting this baby, I would hold my breath a lot. So breath work, learning that, which my husband's played a lot of Marines and,
Right.
Navy SEALs, and
Right.
he would practice and work with, boots on the ground SEALs.
Right.
A lot of them use breath work to stay calm and relaxed in the middle of a mission or getting prepared. Like breath is so important.
I know.
And I know it's like, yeah, of course, like some people might be like
people don't realize just focusing on it,
exactly,
counting them, it's, you get out of your whole,
exactly. So that and meditating in some form has been very helpful for me.
Okay, last question.
Okay.
The podcast is called Kill Me Now, because I get so annoyed. Like, I can't stand so much shit about people. What pisses you off more than anything? Like, makes you fucking crazy? Like, you're like, I can't.
Goodness.
And it could be anything.
Okay, this is gonna sound like weird.
No.
Weird. Yeah. But I really, this is like a weird quirk that I have.
I love it.
When it comes to recycling, I am so, especially in New York, when you see all the garbage bags and recycling piled up on the street, I can't help but think about the landfills where all this stuff is going and recycling and everything. It drives me crazy. So when I have to clean out particular containers, because I'm the one who like rinses out the containers to make sure that they can fully recycle it.
Right.
And I have such limited time having 2 kids and all the stuff that we have to do. And especially with the self-isolation and everything, we're like running a school, we're running a restaurant, doing my virtual bookstore, which I'm so thankful to be doing, trust me.
Yeah.
Having to clean out these particular containers, like peanut butter or something.
Right.
I get so pissed off at my own kind of neuroses for having to make sure it's clean so it can be recycled. I just get really pissed off. And then when I see other stuff in the recycling bin that's someone else in my house, I have to take it out of the bin and do it myself. Like,
no fucking way.
I take it out and I clean it up.
Oh my God.
So that I'm just like, can we all just be neurotic about this?
Right.
That kind of kills me.
I know. I have to clean it out too.
That kills me.
I know. And then you feel, and if you don't clean it out, then you feel like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, exactly.
And like 2 hours later, you go back. You're like, all right, I'll take the tuna fish out, you fucking asshole.
That's exactly it. I know. And it makes me so, I'm just like, I'm angry about my thing to have to clean it out.
Right. And then to have
it like, if someone else puts it in the garbage that I have to then take out, I'm like, God damn it, you know?
Fucker! I cannot thank you enough. This was such an honor. You're so fucking great.
So are you.
No, you are. And you have to please everyone get this book. You're self-isolating. You and I as mothers, a raw and honest guide to motherhood. And that's what we need, raw and honest, because we certainly don't have it in the White House. I mean, we might have raw, but not honest. But
I so appreciate you having me on. This was so special.
Oh my God. You don't know. You have no idea. I'm so fucking happy. I can't fucking believe it. Where can people find the book? Where can they
Everywhere.
find it?
Everywhere books are sold. You can go to my website at lauraprepon.com or just lauraprepon.com. There's a bunch of links on there. Or, it's everywhere books are sold. It's out right now.
Oh, you're the best.
So are you. I really appreciate you having me on, my fellow Jersey girl.
Oh, thank you. And I'm looking up Wheat Chafe Road, but I kind of think I know where it is.
Awesome.
Now that I think about it. Thank you so much for listening to part 2 of Kill Me Now with the one and only Laura Prepon. Was she not amazing? Make sure to tune in next week because we'll have a new guest, and I'm not telling you who it is. If you like the show, which how can you not, make sure to subscribe and leave a review. It helps more people find the show, and it should be only 5 stars, the reviews, okay? I can't with the little petty criticisms because everything I do is perfect. Make sure to follow me on social media to stay up to date with any added virtual dates with myself. And I'm doing a lot of stuff online. So really check my website and follow me on Twitter and Instagram for all updates at Judy Gold, at JEWGOLD, like Jew Gold because I'm Jewish. And as always, during this quarantine,
you can listen to the backlog of amazing interviews we've done on Kill Me Now, or listen to my comedy albums, Conduct Unbecoming, my most recent, Kill Me Now, that came out a year and a half ago, and Judith's Roommate Had a Baby, which was my first album. You can get links to all of this at judygold.com. I hope you're all safe. I hope you're all well, and I can't wait to come out of this and be better than ever. And thank you so much for listening. And as we always say, so long!
And everything was wonderful. I'll see you soon. Thank you for the visit. So long.